those touchscreens doing all those growing little brains.
All she wants for the holidays is, well, not toys, but skincare products.
All I wanted this year was skincare and makeup.
11-year-old Olivia Clyde is obsessed with beauty products.
8th grade kid could not spell a single word correctly on this list. 8th grade.
Generation Alpha, the supposed future leaders and current generation of our society. But with the way they're growing up, will they actually be the future generation to make an impact? Or is Gen Alpha as doomed as people say it is? Who are Generation Alpha? Gen Alpha, or people born between 2010 and 2025, is said to become the most populated generation in history with over 2.8 million kids born every week. They follow Gen Z and are the children of the millennial generation. Although Gen Alpha is populating a large amount of society, why do other generations think there's no hope for this generation? With countless cases of kids acting out in public, lashing out, and behaving erratically, many believe that Gen Alpha is already ruined. You see babies and toddlers often throwing temper tantrums the second their smart devices are taken away, and teachers are begging parents to do something because their kids barely scrape by in school. Time and time again, we hear about just how doomed Gen Alpha is. But where are these horror stories coming from? And what makes Gen Alpha so different from all the generations before them? The short answer, the internet. The rise of iPad kids. When you think of a kid in today's day and age, how do you picture them? Most of you probably had an image of a kid with an iPad in their hands, right? That's because Gen Alpha is not only the youngest generation, but also the most technologically dependent one. Generation Alpha was raised by screens, whether by TV, a computer, or the infamous iPad. With almost 80% of kids owning an iPad or another version of a tablet, you can't deny the nickname that many call this generation, iPad kids.
This is what happens when mom and dad take away an iPad from 2-year-old Ashlyn Brooks.
Since their creation, iPads have been used as a tool for parents who are simply too busy with work. Technology has proven to be a hassle-free way of keeping kids occupied, whether at public places, social events, or just during the day-to-day. With iPads being an evolved version of parenting in the 20th century, screens are simply considered the new nanny. And although parents may benefit from relaxing after work, iPads could be doing more harm than good. It's gotten to a point where Gen Alpha is entirely reliant on their devices, growing a digital addiction that they cannot seem to stop. In 2012, a 3-year-old boy was kicked off an Alaskan Airlines flight from Seattle because of the extreme temper tantrum he threw after getting his iPad taken away. The kid had been playing with a tablet before takeoff, but when planes ascend, all devices were asked to be turned off, and this one iPad was no exception. But when flight attendants tried to get the kid to turn his tablet off, he started to wreak havoc. The child began a raging outburst, hitting his head against the roof of the plane and desperately begging for his tablet back. His family tried to calm him down and buckle him in so that they could take off, but no one was able to control him. Things got so bad that the pilot had to turn the entire plane around on the runway. The boy and his entire family was escorted off the flight, causing them to miss their vacation to St. Martin Island. And this was over 10 years ago at the start of the iPad kids generation. Since then, Gen Alpha has grown more attached to their devices. Social media has become a part of their day-to-day routines for better or for worse, and it's caused kids to become addicted to the internet. And the stay-at-home crisis that happened in 2020 only made things worse. Kids were locked indoors and were unable to get any sort of social interaction from other peers or teachers. Gen Alpha was treating technology like a full-time job, devoting 40 hours a week to using it. With social media being accessible to anyone, internet usage was at an all-time high. They couldn't go out to play because of restrictions, so the only way they could get any form of contact with the outside world was through their devices. Gen Alpha was going through critical development phases during the stay-at-home crisis. The online world became their new reality because it was all they knew. And considering the sort of horrible stuff that we have access to online, this is concerning. Technology usage on its own isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's the content that's being consumed that's the real perpetrator. Parents may think that they know what their kids are watching online, but sometimes things aren't what they seem, even in videos supposedly made for kids. Internet brain rot. You might have heard of the term brain rot. Popularized by social media, brain rot is the term that internet users have created to describe those lacking proper socialization and are obsessed with digital content to an unhealthy level.
Oh God, bro, Gen Alpha content's some of the most incoherent brain dead I've ever seen in my life, okay? Like, I can physically feel my brain cells frying every second I spend watching them.
Level 100 Gaiat. Ice Spice Riz W Riz Gaiat. You've Gaiat to be rizzing me in Ohio at 3 a.m.
When you think about brain rot, Gen Alpha tends to be the usual demographic that comes to mind. That's because the internet has been their primary means of interaction with the world since they were born. Brain rot content can also be identified by the constant usage of internet slang, overly bright colors, and attention-grabbing content that switches every few seconds. A key example is popular kids media like Skibidi Toilet that seem to capitalize on Gen Alpha's decreasing attention span by overwhelming them with hyper-stimulating content. Skibidi Toilet is a web series on YouTube that features a variety of models from games like Garry's Mod and Counter-Strike as they battle in a raging war. The two sides are singing human-headed toilets, which are called Skibidi Toilets, and humanoids who have human bodies but items as their heads, like cameras or TVs. The series was created by a man named Alexei Gerasimov. It first premiered on YouTube in February of 2023. Since the first episode was released, the channel had gained over 40.6 million subscribers and has over 15 billion views to date. Each episode features the Skibidi Toilets and other characters engaged in full-on conflicts, animated in the most obscure and dramatic ways. There's never a dull moment in the videos, which to Gen Alpha is the exciting part. On the surface level, this might just seem like out-of-the-box wacky content for kids, but the harsh reality of it is that Skibidi Toilet could be damaging to children. With the constant overstimulating content, kids get used to hyperactivity, making everything else feel mundane. This can cause irritability, a low attention span, and a lack of patience since kids are now so used to hyperstimulation. Parents have long since been concerned with whether or not Skibidi Toilet is appropriate for their kids to watch, and it even got to a point where Russian authorities had to get involved to investigate the show. A Moscow man concerned over Skibidi Toilet's detrimental effects on children asked the police to block the videos from the internet to prevent kids from watching it. This investigation has gotten mixed opinions so far, with some claiming that getting the police involved over a kids series is ridiculous. Other parents also echoed the same concerns, believing that Skibidi Toilet may be doing more harm than good. While there's still no conclusive answer as to whether or not the series is negatively affecting children, this form of hyper-stimulating media has become a growing trend for Gen Alpha. Parents are becoming increasingly worried that their kids are becoming like zombies because of this kind of content. Another popular kids show is CoComelon, which is usually targeted toward babies and younger children. CoComelon has become one of the most famous kids shows and has been a go-to entertainment source for parents to show their kids. But in recent months, the once favorable reputation of CoComelon has completely shifted because now parents are starting to discover a correlation between their kids' behavioral issues and the show. On December 26th, 2021, TikTok user It's Mama Bell posted a video that raised some serious concerns about CoComelon. The text on the video said that she had just switched from showing her kids CoComelon to a YouTuber called Miss Rachel, and that prior to switching, her children would just sit in front of the TV like zombies. In the comments, countless moms agreed with her, saying that Miss Rachel, who is a YouTuber who focuses on educational content, was much more beneficial for their kids. More and more parents realized that their kids were becoming addicted to CoComelon to the point where they wouldn't be able to move away from the screen, and they weren't learning anything from the show either. The show focused solely on keeping the children's attention with bright colors, repetitive songs, and fast jump cuts, all of which are tactics that the show uses to keep kids hooked.
Let's see how many seconds it takes for each one of these scenes to change. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
This epidemic of overstimulation can be compared to the feeling that you get from substances, hence why CoComelon is so addictive to children. And it's not just random TikTokers that have said this. Actual childhood experts have chimed in, agreeing that CoComelon is too overstimulating for kids, which can lead to addiction. CoComelon watchers are usually between ages 2 and 5, which are critical years when it comes to early childhood development. This is the time when kids are developing language, creativity, and social skills. And shows like CoComelon CoComelon have possibly only made these tasks more difficult, and not to mention the disturbing influx of ElsaGate content that's taken over all of the kid-friendly platforms. And I have a whole separate video of that you can watch. All of this inappropriate content not only has caused concern for Gen Alpha parents, but also for teachers as well. Because not only are kids becoming more addicted to screens, but they're also doing much worse in school. The dumber generation. It's a common theme in social media for people to say that Gen Alpha is considered one of the dumber generations. The more kids become addicted to their screens, the harder it is for them to live a life away from it. That includes during school hours. It's as if kids are having a harder time paying attention, likely because the internet may be conditioning their brains to shorter content, hence a shorter attention span. Teachers around the world have been going viral on TikTok after sharing just how concerned they are about the educational development of their Gen Alpha students. They have said that students are now reading and writing at several grade levels behind, with a large majority of kids being unable to understand basic literacy, spelling, and grammar.
This 8th grade kid could not spell a single word correctly on this list. 8th grade.
TikTok user QBski is an elementary school teacher from Atlanta, Georgia, who took to TikTok to express his concern for the students in his class. He said that although he teaches a 7th grade class, many of his students are nowhere near that level of education.
I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade level. Ain't nobody talking about how they just keep moving, passing them on. I can put as many zeros in this grade book as I want to. They're gonna move that child to the 8th grade next year.
This teacher even stated that some of the students in his class perform at kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade levels, even though they're just 2 years away from entering high school. And he's not the only teacher that feels this way.
And I teach at one of the more affluent schools. When I tell you that these babies cannot read, they cannot write, and they cannot comprehend, I'm not being funny. I'm being dead serious.
When it comes to high school kids, it's not much better because the creator, Cool Nace, aka N, said that her 10th and 11th grade English students were only capable of performing at a 6th or 7th grade reading level despite being in their upper years of high school. And other sources continue to claim that Gen Alpha kids don't only have poor learning skills, they have poor behavior too. Young students misbehaving in the classroom has become the new norm, and when teachers like N try to discipline them properly, it doesn't work out.
My principal told me you can't do that in Georgia. They have completely taken discipline out of education at this point, especially in Georgia. You cannot use the grade book to implement any kind of discipline or any kind of enforcement with students. And that is going to be the ruin of our kids.
But it's not just attention disorders that are at fault here. The internet has also given Gen Alpha a golden ticket when it comes to cheating their way through school. ChatGPT. AI tools like ChatGPT can easily help kids finish their homework in seconds. The shift has reduced the emphasis on work ethic, along with valuable life skills like critical thinking and communication. Without these skills, Gen Alpha has become prone to all sorts of influences. Because since they are so conditioned to only look at the surface level, they take most of what they see on social media as the truth without researching for themselves and questioning it. Everything they see online is immediately taken as a fact, which is detrimental to these young, impressionable kids. And companies are taking advantage of this. They're targeting a demographic that they shouldn't be. Kids. The gullible generation. Anywhere you go on the internet, you are destined to run into an advertisement. Whether on the TikTok shop or just casually scrolling on social media, marketing has evolved from billboards and newspapers to scrolling on your phone. Adults are able to understand what an organic piece of content is versus a paid promotion, but young kids are less perceptive of this. They use viral trends as guidelines for what they should or should not like, even if it's not meant for them.
As kids consume more online content, including advertising, they're being influenced to buy products that are just not made for them.
We see this happening all the time with Gen Alpha, especially due to the rising influence of TikTok. But they aren't alone. Millennials and older generations drive forward these trends and make them mainstream on social media, one product being the infamous Stanley Cup.
Drawing screams of excitement and tears of joy. This year's hottest status symbol and most coveted holiday gift
I got a Stanley!
is is the Stanley Tumbler.
This tumbler cup has become the reason for multiple news headlines and heavy in-person lines as early as 4 a.m. And because it's so popular, people are willing to go to the ends of the earth to get one. Although this is the new craze, if you want to get your hands on one, it won't be cheap. The Stanley Tumbler will run you back around $45 USD, with limited edition cups costing even more than that. This cost is pretty hefty for a water bottle, and it's definitely not one that everyone can afford, but there are consequences if you can't pay for one.
Ohio mom Dana Motika went viral on TikTok, posting how her 9-year-old daughter was bullied for bringing a less expensive look-alike to school.
Dana had bought her daughter a $10 Stanley look-alike from Walmart as a gift for Christmas. Her daughter brought the cup to school after Christmas break, only to come home upset because kids in school were bullying her. The sole reason? Because her Stanley cup was fake. Over the break, multiple girls in her grade had gotten real Stanley cups as presents, and they were quick to call out Dana's daughter for her dupe. They said that hers was not as cool and made fun of her because of it. To us, it might seem wild that a young girl is being bullied over not having an expensive water bottle, but for Gen Alpha, this is their new reality. Gen Alpha has become possibly one of the most materialistic generations ever. With so much advertising being shown at their young eyes, these kids feel the need to buy everything they see or face the fear of not fitting in. And it's not just Stanley Cups that have proven this. Earlier this year, the beauty retailer Sephora made headlines after multiple story times about Sephora 10-year-olds went viral on TikTok.
Viral clips have been going around of kids going in Sephora making a big mess.
During this trend, dozens of people flooded the TikTok For You page with their own personal horror stories with Generation Alpha shoppers at the makeup store. They complained that the kids were rude and had no respect for anyone or anything in the store.
I'm in Sephora right now, and I'm going to count how many 10-year-olds I see. 1, 2, 3. Currently walking past a 10-year-old getting her eyebrows done. 4, 5, 6. There's a whole group of them over here.
Kids as young as 4 were shopping in the aisles of Sephora for expensive beauty products that they clearly did not need. And the reason behind it? The internet.
All she wants for the holidays is, well, not toys, but skincare products.
All I wanted this year was skincare and makeup.
Social media has become Gen Alpha's go-to guide for how to live their life. Whatever they see influencers do, they want to do. Whatever they see influencers buy, they want to buy. With every beauty influencer on platforms like TikTok and Instagram becoming obsessed with skincare, it was only natural for Gen Alpha kids to follow in their footsteps. But this can be a red flag, especially for parents, as social media sets a bad example for young girls. The Sephora Kids trend is a prime example. These young girls do not need to be spending hundreds of dollars on beauty products that are targeted at adults. These products have chemicals and ingredients that can be harmful to kids, especially the ones that have gone viral online. Drunk Elephant is the name on every Gen Alpha's tongue. Originally a skincare brand meant for millennials, now a larger portion of Drunk Elephant's consumer base consists of beauty-obsessed kids. With products priced from $20 to upwards of over $100, this is definitely not a brand that most kids can afford to buy, at least without the help of their parents. But is this really something that parents want to be getting for their kids? Many of these Drunk Elephant products contain ingredients like peptides, acids, and retinol, which can all be damaging to youthful skin. Retinol is a form of vitamin A that's known for its anti-aging effects, with higher concentrations being used to fight wrinkles. These kinds of high concentrations are regularly found in beauty products and are definitely not meant for young girls. But it's not only physical health concerns the parents are having about this growing obsession with skincare and makeup. It's also the mental effects too.
Social media is doing this, and this could be setting up a lot of young girls with issues that'll follow them well into adulthood.
Young girls are constantly being overwhelmed with societal beauty standards and ever-changing trends in fashion and beauty. And for Gen Alpha, this pressure has only increased with the influx of social media influencers. They look up to influencers more than they do their own parents. But is this influence positive or negative? I'm addicted. Gen Alpha is social media obsessed. It's said that by the age of 1, the average Gen Alpha kid already has over 100 pictures of them posted on social media. Almost every Gen Alpha kid is on social media. It's their main form of communication with their friends and where they get the latest news. But their social media screen time is often unregulated by parents, so there's no telling what these Gen Alpha kids are watching on their devices. And that's the scary part. Although most social media platforms have age restrictions or content guidelines, kids can easily bypass them just by lying about their age. And regardless if the platform is meant for younger audiences, anyone can break the rules by posting inappropriate content anyway. TikTok, the most popular platform for Gen Alpha, is a mishmash of all different sorts of content. The For You page throws a bunch of different videos together in an endless scroll, showing users the type of content that they like, as well as new content that they've never seen before. One of the most common trends that you can find on social media is thirst trapping. This form of content is meant to attract attention from viewers, usually in the form of posing, dancing, or acting seductively. Although the nature of this content is meant for a much older audience, there's a ton of kids participating in these trends without realizing its implications. It's become more and more common to see a Gen Alpha kid dressed up in revealing clothing making thirst trap content, which in itself is already unsettling. But not to mention, there's no telling who's watching or saving this content online, which can leave them vulnerable to a certain audience that may have other intentions. With the influx of OF promotions, adult content is becoming more accessible. With social media heavily influencing young people, it's become difficult for them to see the importance of real relationships. 1 in 4 children go outside to play nowadays, missing crucial social interactions. Most of Gen Alpha spends their time indoors consuming media meant for adults. The severe dopamine addictions from internet platforms like TikTok have resulted in negative effects on younger generations, as simple as enjoying their day-to-day life. Kids no longer have the patience for anything because they're so used to the instant gratification that social media provides them. Kids can't do simple everyday tasks like brushing their teeth, eating food, or using the restroom without the constant stimulation of a screen. Gen Alpha becomes impatient and frustrated at the drop of a hat, with even the smallest inconveniences getting blown out of proportion, turning into full tantrums or breakdowns. With most of their learning coming from the internet, they're being exposed to horrible behavior from those entitled influencers that they see online.
And when you look at the biggest influencers now who flaunt their opulent lifestyles and endorse things like OnlyFans, are these really the people you want raising your children?
Now, the question is Generation Alpha really doomed? I've talked a lot about the problems of Gen Alpha, but there are still many strengths that they have. Gen Alpha has access to more resources, knowledge, and tools than ever before. They're living in an exciting time, with technology advancing at such a rapid pace and them being so adaptable to it. If they're able to use the internet for good rather than bad, they can become some of the most intelligent people on the planet. And they're also born with empathy inside them. The future can be bright for Gen Alpha. All they need is a little guidance and a push in the right direction. We, as people who care, can monitor what our siblings are doing on social media. And as adults, we can teach our kids the value of hard work, and we can be better examples for them to follow. My friends, it's time to stop the internet from destroying this generation. Visual Venture. Wait, before you go, make sure you guys click subscribe here and then watch this video about the hidden dangers of YouTube Kids content, because our goal is 700,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. Thank you guys for everything. Peace.